Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
If you're joining us now, you're probably in bed, relaxing in this weather.
No, tell me about it. This is definitely one of those days, and especially since yesterday was just as rainy, that you just want to stay at home and stay cozy. But you can't. It's Thursday. You got to get up. The week is almost over. And don't worry. Once you get to your destination, you'll be able to settle down and stay dry.
I know, absolutely. And I'm thinking that, if this weather does keep up over the next few days, it might be a nice weekend to, just stay wrapped up in bed.
Gavin doesn't want sun on a weekend?
No, well, it's more that I'm not expecting it, so I'm just sort of like trying to plan based on what I expect to happen or try to have the best time possible, which seems like it's going to be inside this week.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Yeah. Well, there's a peak of sun that I saw just now, so maybe it's going to be like what we saw yesterday, just a little bit of a break in the shower in between. And then I hear thunder.
Yep, I just heard it too.
To tell me I'm wrong.
Right? Yeah. But we are going to get into our weather update in a little bit, but there are, of course, lots of issues to speak about.
Yeah.
And shortly before we got started, I was speaking to Marlene about the number of environmental issues that have been popping up in the news recently.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of issues all across the country, actually, that highlight a bunch of what has been going on.
Mm-hmm.
So last night on our newscast, we brought you coverage of could call it ongoing, but the protest that took place in St. Vite yesterday, in which residents were protesting the construction of a gas station in the village. This has been going on for several months with concerns being highlighted from the residents from the initial stages of the process, from the approvals to the land, and then now that yesterday's protest was concerned with the installation of fuel tanks, and the police did have to get involved, and there's some footage right now that we've got for you.
Yeah.
But of course, they're highlighting potential dangers that they say that the gas station may present to the community and the environment in St. Vite.
Yeah, and this situation has been brewing for quite a while. And I think that clearly with the residents coming out, it shows that they're not just going to settle in and say it's a done deal. I think the plus side to this, I'm always encouraged when I see the community standing up for what they believe is best for their own village. In this case, St. Vite. I think that the situation is one where we have very often seen development take place, and people are kind of nonchalant about it, and they don't really get involved. But things have changed dramatically, and with social media, people are able to get out that information. It picks up some traction, and then you can be able to get more sides to what's going on. And so the developers have spoken out. They, of course, dispute the allegations that the villagers are making. But it seems to still be a contentious issue, and one that we hope will be addressed.
No, absolutely. I hope that there is a peaceful sort of resolution that works best for everybody. And in all of the like this and other development projects which are sort of raising concerns among the environmental community, and as well as in the case of the St. Vite protest, the persons who might be directly affected in the areas in which these proposed projects are located. Another thing which has been popping up is a lot of construction which is taking place, oddly as it might sound, in or over the seas. And
Yeah.
yeah, so the causeways, bridges, that has been in a lot. And actually, the cabinet the government of Belize and through the cabinet did did send out a release that was addressing, I believe it was 7 or 8 points that
Yes.
they had made that address some of the concerns that have been raised with the construction of these proposed projects. One of them is the Stake Bank Drowned Key Causeway, which is right near Belize City. The other is a potential project which was announced by the Prime Minister in relation to a causeway in the north of San Pedro, sort of creating a border between where the north of the Ambergris Cree meets Mexico. So, of course, those have raised a whole lot of concerns among, especially the environmental community, the fishing community as well, who is another stakeholder in relation to a lot of these marine development projects. So it has certainly brought a whole lot to light. And in all the things, even if we include Senbite in that conversation, it seems to be that there's always a struggle between development and, the concerns of the environment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, a part of it is how much we pride ourselves on the natural resources that we do have. If it's one thing I think we as Belizeans cling to is just how much we've been blessed with phenomenal resources across the country, and not just the reef and the cave systems and the Mayan sites that we're so proud of, just the greenery when you fly into the country. And I think the balance between being able to maintain what we have long considered the jewel with being able to allow for sustainable development for future potential for the country.
Absolutely. And actually, as you speak about that, I'm also thinking about the port projects, which have also been in the news recently. And I think that when the discussion is usually framed as, development versus, let's say, protecting the environment or conservation, let's say, development versus conservation. I don't necessarily think that the two have to be incompatible. I think that the goal is always, what they say is sustainable development, but the more complicated question is, how do you define sustainable? Is economics going to be the bigger consideration, or is it going to be, well, do we want this long-term environmental protection? Yeah. Because any sort of, Belize, we're sort of a young country, but our economy is not necessarily that developed and that diversified, but our population is very young, and our growth rate is very high. Among even among all countries in the Western Hemisphere, and so we're gonna need development projects, and we're gonna need to build things. We're gonna have to do it. So the question is how, and I think that taking into consideration all of the difficulties which we're facing right now, and we're talking about rain in Belize City. And seeing how yesterday so many areas got flooded just after, it was raining a lot, but it was just a day. But it didn't used to happen like that in my childhood. I can remember that. And I'm not that old.
You said something, and it really struck a chord with me. When we cautiously make this particular reference, it's the idea of hitting the right balance. And we've been talking about that with economic health versus the health of the nation quite a bit.
For sure.
And it surely is not an easy solution. I think that by and large, Belizeans want development for the country. It's just ensuring that they know that the proper due diligence is done, that things are considered looking at all potential ramifications, and that moving forward, it is actually the type of development that is needed for the country. The causeway from San Pedro was interesting because that kind of just popped up randomly. We know that the Prime Minister was back from a meeting with Mexico. Clearly that seemed to have been maybe discussed or an idea thrown about there, but no real move to be able to get that going. But it's interesting to see the reactions instantaneously that we hear. And this is just by certain individuals. I always am cautious when I say we hear from all the people, because we haven't heard from all the residents. There hasn't been a consultation on Ambergris Ski itself. But it shows that they are looking at other areas where we can be able to have that type of development. There's a boat that goes over from San Pedro to Chetamon. It's much easier to travel that way, shorter as well, because of the proximity. And so
it's also burning fossil fuels, though. So, I mean, there we go.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other conversation. And you know, it's interesting because the COP26 is coming up. This is the big global climate change conference. And as we think of things like flooding, for example, I'm just reminded by that. You know, we know that Belize City particularly is below sea level, and some of the flooding that we've seen. But someone, I think it was it was a representative that was here, was talking about climate change. I don't want to quote the wrong person, but they were saying, look at the weather patterns that we're seeing right now. Sometimes just high tide and you see small floods in the small puddles accumulating across the country.
I live near the sea now, and the thing is, the house that I live in now was built, I believe, in the 60s or 70s, and the thing, but nowadays, whenever there's a high tide, the water comes all the way up to, you know, up to the fence, up into my yard. And I'm sure that wasn't the case when the house was originally built. So we're definitely seeing the effects of a whole lot of development and climate change. And I think that when we talk about this conversation about, you know, conservation versus development, I think a lot of people often think about, you know, let's say if it's going to be damage to the environment, they think about it only in terms of, well, okay, the trees or the birds or the fish or whatever. And what a lot of people don't realize is that, or what people don't really discuss it in the way, is that damage to the environment and stuff, it's not necessarily that we're going to destroy nature and it will never come back. It's that, you know, nature is very resilient. You know, you pave concrete and you see, you know, weeds spring out of it. It's that the effects are going to affect us negatively, and we see that when we don't build sustainably, and, you know, we see flooding we see flooding if let's say certain developments are done in a certain way over a fish that affect fish populations, then it affects the amount of fish that you're able to do. So it affects livelihoods directly, and it also affects what we're able to access. It affects prices of things. So it's really, when we're talking about climate change and environmental destruction, it's not that nature will be gone forever. It's that we're making life much more difficult for us if we don't build sustainably. So yeah, of course the birds and the fish are going to get affected. But the problems really are going to be borne by us, and you know, it's telling, if you think about it on a bigger level, you think about the global conversation about climate change, it's why the more industrialized countries are not going to feel the direct effects, but the countries like Belize, which already do from rising sea levels and emissions and stuff, it's affecting that, and then that has its own ripple effect too, because then what happens to, you know, in 20, 30 years' time, when is Belize City going to be like Venice?
Yeah, you know, but even if we don't have to go to the hypothetical, you know, one of the things that we've talked about is just the rapid formation of hurricanes, the rapid intensification of hurricanes, and the frequency. And it was just 2 years ago or 3 years ago that we saw Maria devastate the Caribbean, and that's how quickly your livelihood can be diminished. And so I think that it's putting it all into perspective. I think the healthy conversation that is taking place is that people are asking questions. The responsibility that comes from developer side, and that also comes from the persons who the agencies responsible for approval, is that they provide the answers. And so I think that there's the question of who makes the decision. Will it be based on public consensus, or will it be based on the leadership that we've entrusted to be able to do what is best for all? So that's...
And I think that, you know, going back to, you know, the metaphor or the analogy that you drew earlier between this and COVID-19, I think that it's the same sort of considerations when you're in that decision-making position. You have to take into consideration what are the needs of, let's say, the stakeholders and those people directly affected. You have to think long-term, economically. You also have to think, what is the science or, the objective data telling you about how, what's projected to happen in terms of like the actual effect, let's say, on the environment, or in the case of COVID, what is, the best science or medical advice, and balancing all of those factors and deciding what's going to be the best solution.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, but we got to get moving into our show for today. We have a lot to discuss. We actually have an update coming up. There is flooding across the country, and we're going to be getting a check-in with that in just a few. So we'll tell you what's happening in your neighborhood. But let's start off with some motivation. Let's get our minds right to be able to tackle the day ahead. So we're going to shift gears to the eye opener. And the eye opener for today, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. There is freedom that comes with awareness, because with it comes the opportunity to make a choice. Life is a journey comprised of many steps on our personal path that take us down a winding road of constant evolution. And each day, we're provided with a myriad of opportunities that can allow us to transform into our next best selves. One moment we're presented with an opportunity to react differently when yet another someone in our life rubs us the wrong way. On another day, we may find ourselves wanting to walk away from a particular circumstance, but are not sure if we can. Eventually, we may find ourselves stuck in a rut that we can never seem to get out of. We may even make the same choices over and over again because we don't know how to choose otherwise. Rather than moving us forward, our personal paths may take us in a seemingly never-ending circle where our actions and choices lead us nowhere but to where we've already been. With awareness, our paths can't help but wind us forward in our lives while paving the way for new experiences and new ways of being. It is through awareness that we can continue to consciously evolve.
I think that eye opener is pretty fitting based on
Very
what we've
zen,
been,
yeah.
but it also fits
Be
into what
aware.
we've been talking about in terms of that, awareness that allows you to make better choices.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely true, of course. It also got me thinking, it's sort of the opposite of the statement that ignorance is bliss. Because a lot of the time, it might feel like that, but once you've had
you get hit with the truth.
yeah, exactly. I was about to say, like, once you have the sort of an eye-opening experience, and you have a new point of reference, and you realize maybe the mistakes you've been making, or maybe that you were thinking about something the wrong way, and that heightened awareness allows you to improve and make better decisions. And I think that that's absolutely true.
Yeah. No, I think what helping with building awareness does to help you with is to move you away from reactive. Because reactive is what keeps you in that never-ending cycle. Like you do this, I do that, this happens, and then we end up here, and then we go back to norm, and then you do this, I do that, and then it's like consistent. And then you sit and say, why does this always happen to me? Well, you've been doing the same thing
Absolutely.
over and over.
And I think that actually what it also does is that if you spread awareness, then you also open it up to different perspectives, and that you figure out different solutions, or you find out different angles to maybe existing problems that you would not have found if you didn't make it known. So with a lot of activism, people are saying, okay, why are you doing this, or why are you just spreading awareness? But it is important because you may reach somebody who has the solution to that issue that you're talking about.
And that's why I love when I find people who, those are my people who say, yeah, we've always done it, but it doesn't mean that we just accept it now. Because that's for me, really the essence of seeing that, and you take it into your personal life. The cycles of your past don't dictate the cycles you have to continue in your future. And it takes a great level of awareness to come to that.
Absolutely.
But we got to keep moving. There's a lot to get into, and we have a weather update for this morning. Crystal Rosales is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, Crystal. It is wet out there. Tell us the update.
Okay, well, overnight we had about 3 to 5 inches of rain, mostly over the Belize district and northern Sand Creek as well. In terms of the weather, we have moist and unstable conditions, which will continue through the morning with some improvement expected for later today.
Okay. And are there particular areas that are going to be affected in the next 24 hours?
We do have a flood warning. Excuse me. We do have a flood warning in effect for flooding that's already occurring over low-lying and flood-prone areas, but especially over the Belize and northern Sand Creek districts.
Mm-hmm. All right. And or winds for today?
The winds will be from the east at 5 to 15 knots, and sea conditions will be light chop.
All right. So let's talk about the temperatures.
Right. The highs for today will be 85 along the coast, 89 inland, and 76 over the mountains.
And for tonight?
Tonight will be 78 along the coast, 72 inland, and 65 over the hills.
Mm-hmm. All right. You also noted that operators of small craft have a caution.
Yeah. Operators should exercise caution, especially near heavy showers and thunderstorms.
Mm-hmm. All right, Crystal, how much more rain are we expecting today? You said 3 to 5 inches in the Belize district?
Yeah, that was overnight. We still expect some periods of rain, a few showers and isolated thunderstorms to continue through the morning and then gradually decrease during the afternoon. So we're going to have a little break this afternoon and then it's going to pick up back slightly tonight, especially along the coast and over the south.
Mm-hmm. And for the next few days?
Right, a minute. We expect a few showers or thunderstorms to redevelop tomorrow, especially inland and then over the south for tomorrow night. And something similar on Saturday, gradually decreasing by Sunday, Monday.
Mm-hmm. All right. And is there anything out there that we need to be monitoring?
No, tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 48 hours in the North Atlantic, North Caribbean, or the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, so we're looking at a wet weekend ahead as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Into next week, the start of next week?
No, by Sunday night going into Monday, we expect improving weather.
All right, that's good to know. Okay, Krista, well, we appreciate that update.
All right, you're welcome.
You have a great day.
And you guys as well.
Okay.
So my prediction was right. So no, we had.
I think you peeped on the weather update.
No, not really. But on Tuesday we were speaking to our forecaster Francisca Wellington, and I got a similar right prediction. I told her maybe I'll be on the other end of the line one day. Not trying to come for anybody's job, but maybe it's like a sixth sense.
maybe. You know, when they step outside and say it's 50% chance it's already raining.
Right.
No. Well, you know, we do want to say, of course, that you do have to take caution today. It is expected that the rains will continue if you're heading out on the highways. You want to take precaution. It is very important that you consider adding on some time to your travel so that you can be able to get there safely. And this is some clips of this morning. What we are seeing, this was yesterday, what we saw yesterday in the city. And I'm expecting that with up to 5 more inches of rain that fell last night, it's probably still very flooded out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping that today that, you know, we're not going to see too much bad flooding, not only in the city, of course, but everywhere else.
This is Ladyville. This is coming now from Ladyville.
And, you know, it's just going back to our earlier conversation, and we're talking about sustainable development and how we're going to have to be dealing with this problem. I think what I do like to see, though, to put a more positive spin, let's say, on the conversation, is that people are innovative and people have been, there's been a push for more, like, let's say, climate smart, I think is the term, technology and construction. And actually, when you think, and now that I think about it, I can recall more than once when I've had perhaps people visiting from abroad, and maybe it's their first time in Belize, and you drive around, driving around, and people have made the comment to me. They're like, "Oh, wow, there's so many houses on stilts here," and of course that's for a reason, and that's because we live in a hurricane-prone area. We've had devastating hurricanes that have destroyed homes and families, and we've made that adaptation. And I expect that's something that has been ongoing from a long time. And especially if you see older houses, they're often built. The first floor of the house is very high off the ground. Even if there is something underneath, they don't use it as as a residential area.
But it's so interesting, our grandparents, even my mom would say, things always come back.
Yep.
And house on stilts is another one, because actually part of the recommendation, if you live in an area that's prone to rising sea levels, is that looking forward, you should be building on stilts. So we moved away from it.
Yep.
And now it is a recommendation that we see more and more, where people talk about the types of development that you can be able to implement, especially with what we know we'll face with climate change.
No, absolutely. And I think that there can be even more creative things, in what, I've seen people build out of different materials, or perhaps, tree houses have been a thing recently, or you have houses that are more, or people, like, if you've ever seen that show, I think, what's it, Tiny House Hunting? People make, sort of adaptable mobile homes and stuff that, all right, well, if there's a flood, then my house becomes a boat or stuff like that. It sounds funny, but you never know where development is going to lead, or what we're going to be forced to do in the next few years. So we'll see where that goes. And
that's right. Just trying to think. Yeah, it's like a transformer of the future. All right, but that's what we have in terms of our housekeeping for today. We got to get moving into our show.
Yep, and we've got lots of great conversations lined up for you this morning. Our first topic is going to be relationship. We're going to be talking about relationships and what makes a healthy relationship, with a lot of issues that have been in the news recently. So we're going to be speaking with representatives from the Belize Family Life Association, and that's going to be our first conversation for this morning.
All right, the second part of the show, International Credit Union Day is coming up, and they're going to be celebrating the 73rd anniversary of credit unions in Belize, and there are quite a few activities lined up with your preferred credit union. So we're going to get that perspective from representatives of St. Francis Xavier Credit Union, La Immaculata Credit Union, and a representative from the Belize Credit Union League.
And finally, we are going to be hearing from the Caribbean Court of Justice. They have a new initiative, and they have published a new book which highlights pioneering Caribbean women in the legal field. And we are going to be speaking with Justice Winston Anderson, who is a judge from the CCJ, and he's going to be telling us all about that publication in our final segment.
Fascinating. All right. Well, we're going to take that break. Before we do, though, we got a birthday shout out. We got two, actually. So first off, we want to say a happy 8th birthday to Anaya Welch. There she is. So we hope you have a great day today, sweetie. Lots of cake.
I know, right? And our second shout out goes to Maya Bainton, who is celebrating her 9th birthday. So Maya, we hope you also have a great day. Hope you have lots of cake too. And from all of us at Open Your Eyes on Channel 5, we want to wish both of you guys a very, very happy birthday.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our break. When we come back, we are going to be talking about healthy relationships. So please stay tuned.
It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
We have been a partner with Smart for over 10 plus years. We have a full Smart plan we use as our major driver for our business. We have a service that rolls over in that if you call one and it is busy, it rolls over to the next line. So once you call us, you can get us at any time. Before we got this Smart service, we were paying upwards of nearly $2,000 in phone bills. Since we've had our Smart service, we pay an average about $600. So we've had tremendous saving, more than 50%. For the businesses, if you want to save money, switch to Smart because it is far more cost effective and the service is excellent.
Smart continues to be innovative in bringing new technology and meaningful savings during these challenging times to businesses across Belize. Sign up for our VoIP technology or broadband packages and save more.
How does the AstraZeneca vaccine work? The vaccine provides support to help your body develop immunity to the virus that causes COVID-19. The body is left with a supply of memory cells that will remember how to fight the virus. It takes a few weeks for the body to produce the antibodies after vaccination. How long does it take to build immunity after taking the first dose of the vaccine? There is protection 14 days after a person's first dose. However, that initial protection may decline over time, which is the reason why it is so important to get the second shot. How long after the first dose should one take the second dose? The second dose should be given between week 8 and week 12. Are there any deaths associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine? There have been no deaths associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Vaccines save lives. They remain the safest, most effective, and cost-effective medical tool developed. Increased uptake of the vaccine is the best way to stop this pandemic, save lives, and return to normalcy.
ESJ's area of work, the MGL, has a vast diversity of wildlife and plant species that provide ecological services and are part of our cultural heritage. ESJ monitors biodiversity and supports research to help protect threatened species and their habitats. With the help of citizen scientists, biodiversity data is collected within protected areas and agroforestry farms. ESJ is committed to make sound decisions rooted in good science for sustainable development of our natural resources.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back.
And if you're joining us right now, we are getting our first conversation for this morning started. And as we said before the break, we are talking about relationships. And joining us for this morning's conversation, we have Joan Burke-Skeen, who is the Executive Director of the Belize Family Life Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
This is a very interesting and it's a very timely topic, talking about what is a healthy relationship. And we were just speaking a little bit before the break about the red flag trend on social media. So people have been talking a lot about relationships in general. So let's talk about, or perhaps maybe the start of a relationship, when people are just meeting and maybe they feel that spark. And what should people, let's say, be looking for, let's say, in the first place when it comes to forming a relationship, or when, if they feel they're ready for one?
Okay, good morning. For me, I cannot talk about a healthy relationship without talking about the relationship within the home, right? Because relationships start within the home. And you talk about the relationship with the parents, the relationship, the parent-child, parent-children relationship, sibling relationships, because that's where some of the essence of relationships are being formed. And so for you to be able to enjoy a healthy relationship, the appreciation of relationship had to be formed within an environment that nurtured relationship. And so therefore, based on your question, when do you realize that or recognize that you're ready for a relationship? From the time that you have the sufficient sense to recognize, okay, there's something going on, whether between a brother and a sister, and understanding that there are boundaries, understanding what to look for, understanding you as an individual. Those are some of the things then will help you to determine whether or not you're now ready for the kind of relationship that we'll be talking about later on. Because if you're not prepared, if you don't even know yourself, if you don't even know what is it that you want out of this relationship, then it's going to be extremely difficult to determine whether or not this relationship is for you. And the only way you can do that is knowing yourself. What are some of the things that I want? What are my boundaries? And then when you're relating with this individual, you can say, okay, is this person able to give me what I want based on how I value myself, what is it that I want, and what are some of the boundaries that I set.
Great. And I was going to say, I love where you started with the question about starting in the home and what you experience and what you learn being the basis of that, or let's say the foundation. So I'd like to actually, dive into a little bit more about that, about the importance of, the impact of, the relationships and your own relationships with your family and stuff that you experience when you're growing up, and how that impacts you later on when you perhaps want to start your own family or your own relationship type.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with this gentleman, and he said, I have 3 daughters. And whenever they reach to a certain age, 15, 16, I am their first date. I take my daughters out to dinner, and I show my daughters how they are to be treated. So I open the car door, I pull the chair, I respect them, right? Because they know that that's the basis or the basic expectations that they should have in forming a relationship with an individual. Now, if you don't have a healthy, nurturing environment, then it's extremely difficult because you don't know what it is, right? And so basically, what you were born into, where your formative years, that's the environment within which you survive. You will think that that is the norm. And so you will go out there looking for nothing less, because that's what you're used to. And so that's why it is critical. We talk about parenting. We talk about having healthy environment, healthy understanding of who you are before you then jump into anything that you feel like, okay, you know, this is what I want for the rest of my life. The family, I believe, and you have sufficient studies to show that that's the core.
Yeah.
The family and whatever we want to define as the family. Because with all the changes in the world today, you have different forms of family. But whatever that group is that will provide you as a young person, as a child, as an adolescent, to help you form who you will become later on is critical to an individual's life.
You know, at the core of what you're saying is the modeling that takes place. And that gives us an opportunity to kind of step back and see the culture of what we consider to be healthy relationships in this country. I think we've dived into the topic before that in Belize, we don't have a dating culture.
No.
We don't have the idea of exploring what you may like or be attracted to in other people. It just becomes kind of you end up being in a relationship with somebody after talking, and that's it. You're tied to them moving forward. But then we see things erupt every now and again. You see women fighting. You see, especially with social media, where some people do put it all out there. You see people speaking about others and talking about who have my man or who not have my man or the my man. And that's just from the female perspective. We have men who are targeting exes by producing explicit photos and videos. And so we can see that there's something missing in the foundation of the relationships that we're teaching children to build. Now, Joan, you have worked with young people at BFLA looking at things like sexual and reproductive health rights, looking at empowering young people, educating young people. What's the sense that you get when you see where we are today?
When I look at what's happening today, and we look at the values in our society, what is it that we value most? We look at our young people and it goes back, if you don't know the self, if you don't have respect for the self, if you don't have respect for others, because a lot of what we're seeing in our society today is basically lack of respect, and respect across the board.
Yeah.
Because we look at something as simple as theft. Okay? I believe that it is okay. So if you have something and I want it, I could take it and there are no consequences.
Because you have luck.
Yes, right? And there are no consequences. And those things again goes right back to the home. We have lost the value of that, the foundation, which is the home. So now we find some young persons, or majority of young people, they are liberated at different levels. And so we believe that liberation means that we can do just about anything without any boundaries, without consequences. Having worked with young persons, and again, depending on where they're coming from, and I always maintain that financial resources, what you have, what you don't have, education, first we would think that those were protective values, but you have young persons from all different walks of life. That sometimes you look, oh my God, that is Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so child, and they're behaving that way. That's no longer a protection, because sometimes when you go into those same environment, you realize that there are certain factors that contribute to why our young people behave the way that they behave these days. and there are no consequences. And what do we value now as a society? And we have to step back as adults and say, okay, what is it? Because we are the ones who created the environment for the young people. The environment that we have today, we created that environment. So we have to step back and ask, where did we fail? The experiences for some young people in the northern part of the country, in the rural areas, might be completely different than that from the urban setting. And sometimes we could even go into certain cultural aspects as well. What is being accepted as a norm?
I want to, if I could just jump in there for a moment, because that's interesting and that triggers a prior conversation with Dr. Herbert Gale when he talked about the state of couples in Belize. Now, every time we get, just like how there's this myth that there are more men than women in Belize, the population is almost 50-50, one. But there's also this belief that they're predominantly single-parent households in this country, and that's not the case. We do have the majority of households that have father and mother at home. State and health of the relationship is a different story.
Thank you.
And then you have pockets, like urban centers here in Belize City, that may have a higher rate of single parenthood. So when you say that and you tell me about different dynamics for urban and rural, that's one of the things that it triggered. But what are we talking about here? Like higher domestic violence in one area, higher, I don't know, divorce or separation rate in another area? What are some of those differences that you've identified? Let's go rural and urban.
I just want to make one thing clear. Having two quote-unquote parents in the home doesn't mean that there is strong parenting. Having the male figure who is, we'll say the father and the mother, does not mean that the environment is a nurturing one and one that will contribute positively to the growth and development of children. Right now, when we look at the issue of urban-rural households, and we know for a fact the Belize, like the rest of the Caribbean, we are seeing an increase in divorce rate. And the causes of divorce are many. Now, in the rural setting, where I believe, and depending on how rural is that setting, the values in rural setting could be completely different from those in the urban setting because of access. Access to information, access to certain resources, and we find that there is still, in some of the rural areas, there's still an approach to this community kind of life, where that is a support mechanism for young people or support mechanism for children. Now, when you come to the urban area, there's much more access to social media, for example, and we tend to be more competitive in some of the urban areas. So you find what will affect the life of a young person and how it affects the lives of young persons in some rural communities might just be different than what we are experiencing in the urban area. We look at, for example, and going back to Dr. Gale's report, we do know that the unresolved hurt, or we have some deep-seated hurt, and one of the things that we recognize in more rural areas, and depending on culture as well, is the issue of abuse, sexual abuse that we've come to learn to live with, right? Or it would appear that we have accepted that and have learned to live with it. Now, as we move from that stage into a relationship, an intimate relationship, some of those hurt manifest themselves in an intimate relationship because of the fact that there are still scars or there are still wounds that have not been healed. So even now when we reach to that point, to be able to say, okay, this is who I am. This is what I want. It's a facade.
Just dive into that really quickly because that's such a critical point. One, we've never done a full comprehensive study to know how the state of the problem of sexual abuse in this country. Anecdotally, I know organizations like yours and other mental health professionals and agencies will be able to tell you it is far more predominant than we care to acknowledge. And we're talking from grandparents, parents, and now with the children, that they have been exposed to abuse or abused themselves. They don't talk about it, they don't do anything. So when you talk about that trauma, it's not just if the child itself was abused, sometimes the parent was abused and they project in how they're raising their child with some of these, well, without having some of the important values.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yes. And the prevalence of abuse, whether emotional, physical, sexual, all forms of abuse, is higher than we would want to accept. And sometimes we fail to recognize the impact of abuse on the lives of individuals. Presently, there is a project, a regional project, the Spotlight Project, to address ending violence against women and girls. And when we go back to a home where all we know of is violence, and sometimes people feel that only the physical violence should be looked at. But the emotional violence, the psychological, has for some, both women and girls, boys and men, more a long-lasting effect. We talk about helping and hurting words. We talk about certain behaviors that are being displayed among parents that we believe, hey, children don't see.
Oh, gosh.
But children are very sensitive. And it's very unfortunate that hurting people hurt people. I can recall a member of our YAM, or Youth Advocacy Movement, had done studies. He did his thesis among young men in prison in Belize. And I think it was about 87% who said that they hated their mothers. And when asked why, they said because all their mother represent in their lives is violence. Right? And they felt that, my mama beat me for no reason. But when you go back and a further analysis was done, we very often, when especially a mother is in an abusive relationship, she cannot beat on the man with the beater. So what she does, she takes it out of the persons closest to her, her children. And so these young men, we had one in particular who said that he would never, ever, ever want to father a child because he didn't know his father. But his mother would hit him almost every day and tell him, you're just like your pa. You look just like your pa. a man who he didn't choose to be his father, and he didn't even know who his father was.
Yeah.
So those kinds of hurt and behavior then translate into how you relate when you become an adult and forming your own relationships. We spoke earlier, or you asked earlier, about this whole thing of possession, and this my man or my man.
Or like women attacking women when there's a male in this equation that's been cheating.
Right, and again it comes out, okay, what is it that you want? What are some of the red flags, right, when you get in there? And you mentioned earlier that we don't have a culture of dating. The last week a young lady said to me, it's not a young lady, she's adult, said she's out of a relationship and is going into one, and she was talking with this guy and he said, you know what, I would prefer for us to go on a couple dates to get to know each other, so that we can have very, very frank and open conversation. And she said his response that you watch too much Lifetime, right? And it's simply because the culture that we have now, it is so easy for hookup.
Yeah. And hookups end up in steady relationships, a pregnancy, then a marriage.
And sometimes it might end up with a pregnancy, but then maybe not marriage, because you know what, no? Maybe the male was just looking for fun. And because again you come back, what is it that you want? Have we sat down and have the conversation? I mean, even when we look at pregnancy, and it's very sad, the amount of teen pregnancies that we have in Belize, the amount of mothers.
25% of live births?
Well, and that varies again from district to district, right? And I'm not sure of the exact figure for this year, but again, you find that so many young girls find themselves being single because, you know, hook up with a guy, he never ready for a child, right? Maybe she herself wasn't ready. Or you feel that, and there's still this belief that if I get pregnant, I want to keep him. And it is such...
Not because he has the values that I want in a partner, but because now we have a child.
We have a child, and a child sometimes causes further division than bringing you together. And it's very unfortunate that we see very often, and with social media now, you're seeing all these scandalous posts, and yes, this is my man, no, this is my man, and here he is in the middle. Maybe there are 2 or 3 other who could join the fight too. But then again, it comes back to what do you value? And even as a young man, because it is not a behavior that is acceptable whether for females or for males. But what are some of our societal norms, right? Because again, it comes back to what do we value as a country? What are certain behaviors that we expect of males? What do we expect of females? And how do we communicate these without sending mixed messages?
For sure. And you know, that was actually going to be exactly where I was going to go with my next question, because we've been talking sort of like, let's say gender issues and how it impacts. And you know, you gave the example earlier of what could happen, say perhaps you know, a mother who has experienced sort of abuse, you know, then visiting that abuse on her own children. And if we look at the other example, and we also spoke about the issue of possession, and when it comes to men or male and the way that we're socialized, being possessive, almost to the point of obsession or violence, is something that we often see. And we also see men who have been raised in abusive households end up being abusers and go to the extreme of sometimes you see murder-suicides with you know, with their partners, and they're unable to accept when, you know, if the relationship is at an end, or things like that. So can we talk a little bit about that and perhaps the destructive ways in which this thing can affect the different genders and let's say men in particular?
When going back to the issue of possession and looking at relationship where we feel that there is one partner in the relationship has more authority over the other, or is the more dominant of the two, it further then lends to the not respecting the rights of an individual, respecting that I am my own person, and don't try to form me into something that you think you want. Mm-hmm. When we find that this whole issue of violence, and we know that almost 90% of gender-based violence, are men who are actually the perpetrators, for whatever reason, and there is absolutely no excuse, right? Going back to the gender norms and the social norms, which then drive some of these behaviors, we have a society that I think, and unfortunately so, that we have come to accept. And when we ask ourselves, what do we have in place for somebody who recognizes, you know, I have the tendency to display this behavior. Where can I go and get help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it accepted that, you know what, no, man will beat woman no matter what? Or is it accepted that the women must continue to be submissive and understand that the man is the dominant figure, regardless? Now, if a woman or anybody wants to leave a relationship for whatever reason, the individual who doesn't have the power to make that decision that, you know what, no, you will stay, right? Then when you go out there, and the ego then comes into play, because if, especially for a woman who recognizes that she's in a dangerous relationship, all the red signs are there, and decides to leave, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And at times you ask, but why you stay? We have seen not only women, but young girls being killed because they know there's this fear that is instilled in them. And sometimes it's a situation of insecurity on the part of the male as well. Because even though in most relationships the man wants to be that person in control, and if the woman or the female decides, you know what, no, I am going to leave, the feeling is that I am losing control, and it's how my friend they want to think, and I want to look weak, and they say, no, I want to assert my power. I will make sure that you don't leave me. So the violence then escalates and then end up into death, as you mentioned, or the building of fear that the individual who is being abused have lost all identity. Yeah. They've become somebody that they don't even recognize. And because everybody is so busy doing our own thing, that family network and support that once existed is no longer there, unfortunately. And also people tend to remain silent because of issue of trust. So there are multiple factors that would then contribute to, okay, why we have this situation now.
Yeah.
And it brings up to my mind what is a real big question is that, let's say if you are raised in sort of an environment and that's all you know,
Yeah.
how is it that you build that awareness? And especially, like, let's say, back to the very first question that I asked about how you know if you're ready or whatever, but what are signs of, let's say, what are the red flags or, abusive relationships, so that, if you didn't know before, that you can be aware of so that you can govern? It doesn't necessarily even have to just be a personal relationship. Recognizing those power and those dynamics that could lead to abuse. How can we do that, or how do people in society do that nowadays?
Well, the signs are many, and the issue of power and control, sometimes you find, okay, simple things like if you're on your phone, who you to talk to? And what do they say, right? If you're going out, when you come back? When you go out with your friends, you get 50 phone calls, during that time. You have things like you can't wear certain clothes.
If I could just interject there, and I know you work with young people, so you know this well. Sometimes people are flattered by this type of attention.
Love.
And that's where, and that's why I think it's really interesting, because what, from the outside looking in, you say, I mean, if he's telling you what to wear and who to talk to or who not to talk to, then that's concerning. But for the person in the relationship, they see it as love.
Yes, and they say, he loved me, or she loved me because, see, they call me again. Yeah, watch it. Or they determine who you can speak with, who you can't speak with. You find a number of girls and women are saying, I can't go visit my family like how I want. Or like basic things that you would say, hey, listen, as an individual, I have the right. Like simple things like certain shows you're not allowed to watch. You would be surprised to know the level of control in what we call girlfriend and boyfriend relationships.
Yeah.
And those are red flags that we very often mistake them as love.
Yeah. And it goes back to behaviors that were modeled in the household.
In the household.
It even goes with cheating,
Exactly.
I think it's interesting when you said, not because you have mother and father in the house means that you have a stable foundation for a healthy relationship. I mean, we know that very often you learn love or learn what relationships are like from your parents. And if mom accepted physical abuse or accepted being cheated upon consistently, and everybody know, even the kids at some point, when that little girl or little boy grows up, they think that's what relationships can and should be.
And before you answer, because it actually triggers a memory that I had of a young person actually, and I was very surprised, about 7 or 8 years old, saying something about, oh, my daddy, they with this next woman, and they were aware of the fact that their parents, 7 or 8 years old, and you would think that they're not paying attention to these sorts of things, but they picked up on it. And I remember hearing the child say that, and I was surprised that they would have known, but it's the behaviors that they learn, and they're aware of things that we don't think that they are. So, I guess
it's either going to be that they grow up thinking Cinderella, I'm going to be saved by a prince, because that's the first story of love, or what I see mom, dad, or mom and boyfriend, or dad and girlfriend have.
And it is interesting when we talk about what we accept. I know even when we started doing work in HIV and AIDS in Belize, it's like, okay, we know that persons with uniform services in the uniform services have this behavior. So we know that like customs officers, they want to have one picnic in every district where they work. We know that is the same for police, the police. We know that that's the same for BDF. We know that the BL, the linesman who have to go all over the place, they want to have one. And you know what? It's like, hey, these are trophies that these men are getting. So we already know that this is the society within which we were. So let's accept it. Nothing is done to say, okay, how is this one impacting on homes? Because then that is why you see the family court is so busy, right? Because these individuals, are they making sufficient income to then maintain all these children? So he might have one place that he calls his home, so that's where he resides. But then what happened to all these children? You have one that's San Antonio, you have one that Benke, all over. And so these are children who only know that, you know, my father was custom officer or an immigration officer, but there is no relationship. So here you have a woman who might then find herself probably getting in another relationship to try and maintain. And then you find all these children growing up feeling that this is the norm, right? So when we go back, and I always go back to the home where there's the foundation. This is not to say that you do have persons who grow up in such homes but have made the conscious decision that this is not healthy for me and want to make a difference and make that difference.
But logically that means at some point in their growing up, there was an intervention of sort, whether they sought it themselves or organizations stepped in or school helped to instill the values that they didn't see growing up. And I don't mean values like, you know, you're gonna have the the house with the white picket fence. I mean, going back to this is my worth and this is what I deserve. So let's talk about some of those things. We're running out of time so quickly. It's looking at what, and I know your BFLA has worked with young people, so you can tell us a bit of how you work with young people to help to nurture that sense of self and self-worth and care for them to be able to have some of the tools they need to build healthy relationships.
Well, we start from the point that we allow young people to see that they are their own individuals and individuals with rights. And we go back, Marlene, you will know, we talk about the Convention of the Rights of the Child, which is one of the pillars that we use for individuals to say, hey, listen, as an individual, and we go back to looking at the individual as a person created in whatever being created by God, created by whoever you believe in, but an individual who is special and unique. And knowing that you have the right, and what are some of your rights? The right to say no, the right to be who you are, the right to reach your highest achievement, and that nobody should then dictate to you in a way that you feel that your right is being, or your rights are being violated. We also teach them that with rights come responsibility. And how do you go about making responsible decisions and recognizing when a situation is about to occur that can violate those rights, and that you do not set double standards. And especially in relationships, you set your barriers and you do not compromise if you don't feel that that is worth a compromise. And always be in control of self and understand that there are individuals who might come looking like a prince or a princess. How do you recognize that this is not healthy for you? We know that we have young persons are bombarded with different messages. But we at the Belize Family Life Association, working with young people, we said set your goals and work towards your goals. If even when you get into a relationship, if those individuals, if you don't share the same goals, the same values, then that person is not right for you.
And that doesn't make him a bad person. That's just not your person.
That's not your person. You know, if you want to have 5 children and this person say, hey, listen, I don't want no picnic, then you already know step 1. That will not work. Don't think that you can change. Or if you want a certain career, you know, certain career.
There's a lot of shaking heads around here.
Right, certain career, and they say, you know what, no, I want one, I need one stay-at-home mom. My picnic for be raised by their mom, and you want to be a career person, you already know that that is not for you. Don't hope that, you know what, maybe you might change your mind, or some people change it, but it's very rare when they change their minds. So from very young, you put your own self-worth. You have to know what you're worth.
Oh, Joan, we could go on with this. We need to do a series 2, I'm sure, with people asking questions online, but we are completely out of time. Great a point to close off on, though. I think that's really driving the point home of where healthy relationships start, in the household, but then also in establishing your own boundaries. Thank you so much. And of course, BFLA does presentations like this if people need to contact you all.
Definitely.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by representatives of credit unions in Belize talking about International Credit Union Day. So please stay tuned.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
When something is good and you can save, that makes it even better. Like this guy, he buys Flex bundles using his promo credit. No worries when his primary credit is finished. He gets talk, text, and data for free. Or her, she calls her family internationally with her promo credit. And with data packages so affordable, she even does video calls. Smart continues to offer great deals and affordable promotions. As a small business owner, she saves when she uses her promo credit to call the other guys. All Smart customers enjoy more triple days and knowing they can use their promo credit, which just lasts longer. Smart, bringing people together.
Vaccines protect you and they protect me. Getting vaccinated is one of the most important things you can do to keep yourself and your family safe and healthy. Once enough people are immunized, opportunities for an outbreak of disease becomes very low. And if we all choose to get vaccinated, we contribute in getting back to spending quality time with our loved ones in a safe way.
So the doctor has given me 5 days off. How do I get paid from Social Security?
This is how Social Security works for sickness benefits. First, you must check that you qualify. You must be between the ages of 14 and 65. You must be employed when you got sick. You must be an insured contributor. Have made 50 paid contributions. Have made 5 paid contributions within 13 weeks immediately before getting sick. To ensure that your processing goes smoothly, be sure to complete and submit your claim form within 4 days of the first day of illness.
Thanks, I get it now.
Social Security, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun with eCash. We can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
The TV you love is always with you, from live TV, sports, and on-demand titles. Choose your plan today. Plans start as low as $15 per month. My TV, entertainment, anytime, anywhere.
Are you looking to invest in a growing free trade economy with ideal geographical positioning and existing economic partnership agreements with countries around the world? Perfectly nestled between Central America and the Caribbean, Belize is open for business with over $500 million in investment opportunities in industries such as agriculture, aquaculture, tourism, and much more. Register today to participate in the Belize Investment Summit 2021 and find the investment opportunity that's right for you.
At Fuse Bistro Limited, we care about the well-being of your family and the environment. Our Your Caribbean style restaurant features a wide variety of tropical lunches, gourmet dinners, Fuse granola, organic coffee, infused sangrias, margaritas, and martinis, and much more for you to enjoy. Find our organic food products at Belize On, Bistro, Grab on the Go, and stores in San Ignacio and Santa Elena. WhatsApp us at 624-0500 for deliveries. Fused Bistro Limited, pure and natural.
We're back and we're moving from healthy relationships to healthy budgets as we talk about International Credit Union Day and the work of credit unions in Belize. We have with us, joining us via Zoom, we have Lindbergh Smith, who is the Business Development Officer with the Belize Credit Union League. We have Roy Smith, who is the President of St. Francis Xavier Credit Union. And we have Marissa Gonzalez, who's the Credit Manager of La Immaculata Credit Union. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mark. Good morning, Gavin.
All right. So we have representations in different parts of the country right now. How's the weather?
Of course.
How's the weather in your area, Mr. Roy? I see the rain behind you.
Well, it is quite gloomy. It's raining a lot since last night.
Yeah.
And I must apologize if the audio quality is not as it should be. Yeah. We are on the road, but nevertheless, we lost connection a while ago, but we have stopped somewhere that we can get good signal so that we can conduct this talking with you and express what credit unions are all for.
Well, we appreciate that. And so let's just dive right into it. The commemoration of International Credit Union is the International Credit Union Day is looking at the establishment of what is a movement that was different from what was being offered with commercial banking. So let's talk about the history itself. 73 years.
Yes, Mar. Credit unions indeed have came a long way. This year, every year, we normally celebrate International Credit Union Day, and it's indeed a global movement. This is the one day set aside where the entire world celebrate International Credit Union Day and try to recognize the importance of credit unions within our economies. Since today we are celebrating our 73rd anniversary and we celebrate International Credit Union Day on the third Thursday of every October of every year. And we have been doing that since 1948. And so today marks our 73rd anniversary. And indeed, credit union, this is a day where credit union try to acknowledge their members, try to highlight our accomplishments we have made over the years. We try to bring recognition to the fact of how we have improved the lives of our members over the years too as well. So this is a very significant day for us. And we at the League try to ensure that credit unions reach out to their members or try to acknowledge their members on this day, have something very special. And credit unions all across Belize are doing some kind of activity to commemorate this day, as well as to acknowledge their membership. We all know that credit unions did not started out of a need, and at a time where there was a tremendous struggle, and hardship, and people recognize that if we can pool our resources together, we could accomplish much more, and we could build ourselves. And so the idea of people helping people born, and that was how credit union evolved. To date, globally, we have over 86,000 credit unions, and with over 375 million members. And so that's quite a very big movement. We are currently operating in 6 continents, and have presence in over 118 countries. So that's quite big. Within the Caribbean region alone, we have over at least 2 million members. Mm-hmm. And so with 297 or 91 credit unions, I think. So it shows that the movement is growing within the region, and it shows that the movement is growing globally too as well.
Okay, and Marissa, perhaps you can join in on the conversation and talk a little bit about the role of credit unions and the importance of the service that they provide in society.
Okay, good morning, everybody. The role of the credit union, it's mainly on our mission and vision. We aim to provide personalized services to our members, secure financing. We always try to reach out to the community for those who are in need, financial literacy programs. And I do believe that the theme for this year is so fitting for what the credit union always try to do for our members, building financial health for a brighter tomorrow. We always try to ensure that the livelihood of our members get better every day. And some people are not being assisted by majority of the financial institutions. And we are always here to try to get them into this banking industry and help them grow. We always try to reach to all sorts of members, meaning farmers, entrepreneurs. We are for the self-employed, for the salaried members. We always try to assist with their needs. All our products, everything that we come up with is always to try to assist them to improve their lives while being our members, yes. Yeah. And giving back to the community is what we always do during this month. Usually today, we all know that today is the International Credit Union Day. But what the credit unions normally do, we take the entire month to do community service, to do different different activities to reach out to get our members engaged, to help them secure. It's October. We always try to get them prepared for Christmas. Christmas is a time of caring and sharing, especially during this time of the pandemic. We, the credit unions, I do believe we had a very, we have our plans. We have our, when we prepared our strategic plan, we said this is our way forward. With COVID coming along, we had to, the plan stayed, but we had to find different ways how to ensure that we reach out to our members, because we cannot be out there as much as we were before. But at the end of the day, we are still trying to reach out to each and every member, starting from the smallest to the youngest up to their time of death with our benefits.
Yeah. Roy, let's dive into the theme for this year, talking about building financial health. One of the greatest challenges that people are facing in this pandemic is being able to just stay afloat financially with just the economic impact. Put it into perspective how credit unions have been of assistance and how you help members to build financial health.
Well, as you all are aware, this year's themes for International Credit Union Day is building financial health for a brighter tomorrow. And I think this is absolutely appropriate in the context of the ravaging global pandemic caused by the coronavirus. I'm sorry. This virus has caused regional governments to institute varying regulatory measures, all geared towards saving lives and enhancing livelihoods and minimizing as far as possible the mortality rate due to the virus. These measures would have had a severe impact on the movement. So credit unions have moved forward in a way to assist its members to pay back their loans, because you borrow and then you have a stable job and you're paying and everything is okay, but suddenly there is a loss of economic input in your household, and then you find yourself restrained to service your loan or your debt with the credit union or any other financial institution. We have established various policies that can assist our members. For example, here in St. Francis, of where I am, we have managed to make policies that will assist the member and granting waivers. We granted 3 months complete waivers, zero payments, but then we needed to start collecting some things, and then we granted waivers on principal. You only pay interest for a certain period of time. So that in itself, it's alleviated somehow the payment structure, but indeed it caused a great impact to the credit union, because then the income is not in as it was before. And credit unions rely solely on interest as their main mean of income. So that being dropped and going at a very low status, we had to find a way how to get back the interest, but at the same time to assist our members so that they can pay that interest and that principal. Mm-hmm. So we instituted the forbearance measures policy, which states that members can come in and agree to pay what they can. So there's going to be new terms of payments. So at a lower rate and at a lower principal payment. For example, if you used to pay let's say $200 a month, then you would tell us that probably you only can pay 100 now. So we would adjust your payment terms so that you can accommodate that $100
What you can afford.
so that you can pay
Uh-oh.
us back, assist us in pay us back. Reduce interest rates on our biggest portfolio, which is the mortgages. The mortgages are one of our largest portfolio in the loan portfolio, and we have noticed that with the 10% cut on employees, they also start struggling. These employees are teachers, governmental workers, and they began to struggle to pay their loans also. So the board decided that we should implement a reduction in rate from 12% to 6% for all those who are salary assigned and have a mortgage with us. So if you will only be paying half of the interest rate, so that you can afford again to pay us back. In the agricultural section, also there was a lot of problems also with farmers and people who cultivate fruits. We also went there and tried to assist them, looking at what they can afford and looking at means and ways that if we can institute local crops, for example, growing tomatoes or something, so that in the dead season, they can grow these crops, short-term crops, and get some income and also assist them in paying us back. In other words, the credit union is trying to do things so that you can pay us back.
Yeah.
Because if not, everything is going to be in a bad state of economic. We know that the economic of the country is not stable enough at this time. People are out of jobs. They're struggling to meet ends meet. So the credit union is doing all this so that we can recover some of the monies. And I must say that I am very happy to report that this September, the financials of this September look very, very good. I was pleased to see that the advancements that we are doing are really paying fruits. We plan to sustain this as long as we can. However, we don't know what the future may be in the financial market.
Well, it's at least encouraging to hear that things might be looking up. And with that said, Lindbergh, perhaps you can talk a little bit about how the credit unions are going to be marking the 73rd anniversary and some of the activities that they're going to be doing to mark this day.
Definitely, Gavin. I will share a bit about what I know, and then perhaps Mar or Mr. Smith could also share from their end. I know credit unions across the country of Belize are currently celebrating International Credit Union Day, and some of the activities that they have planned varied from one credit union to another.
Okay.
Some of the credit unions, when you visit them today, you will be getting some kind of treat or token to acknowledge as an acknowledgement. Some of them will be having raffles. Today, like St. Martin's will be having a virtual raffle today on their Facebook page. And that will be, I think that starts at 10. And there will be several prizes where members could win. I know HRCU will be having their book launch today, which teach you how to save. I think the book is Hasito Learns to Save. So it kind of teaches you St. John's celebrating their 75th anniversary. And so they're having arts competition, they're having a team competition, they have awarded scholarship recipients recently. So they have had a lot of little activities leading up to the International Credit Union Day. Also, I want to make note here that this would have been a very active time too for the Belize Credit Union League, because this would have been a time where we have our annual convention. You would have had our financial literacy quiz competition, and those things have all been postponed due to the COVID-19 and the measures put in place. So we have been dormant with our convention and our national quiz, Paramarian Guinea National Quiz competition for the past 2 years, and we're hoping that maybe next year would be where we go live with that again. So, so these are some of the activities. I know LICU has quite a number of different raffles going on. If you open new accounts, if you pay your loan, if you get a new loan, different things LICU have which members can win. There are also some essay competitions and very small essay competition by some of the credit unions. So there are a number of things going on by credit unions. I want to encourage members to stop in today to visit your credit union, be a part of the activities. I also want to get members to get involved in their credit union activities, because while we acknowledge and highlight today as International Credit Union Day, some of the activities are not just for today, it's all month long. So some of the drawing date for some of these prizes will be the ending of the month, or I think the 1st of November. So for some credit unions. So touch base with your credit unions to find out how you can be a part of these activities. I think maybe Marissa can talk a little bit more from what all they're doing from their end at La Immaculada, and also Mr. Smith maybe can share a few things that Francis might be having.
Yeah.
Also.
So we're running out of time so quickly. So Marissa, let's hear what La Immaculada has in store for International Credit Union Day and the celebration you have happening the whole month.
Okay, to go more into the raffle as to what Lindbergh has just shared, for every transaction done here at LICU for this month, you can win a fabulous prize. Also, we are doing Help a Friend in Need. We have a form that we have shared on our Facebook page to our members here. We are reaching out to people in the community who need, and the staff will, each one of us will be donating $20. LICU will meet whatever we put together, and then we will be giving out hampers to our people in our community who need. It's about $150 worth of groceries. Also, since with the pandemic and most of our members who were affected maybe through the salary cuts, some of them lost their jobs, we recently launched a new loan product whereby we are helping them for a debt consolidation loan. This is a really, really new loan that we are reaching out to all our public officers, teachers, everyone who was affected, and they're trying to get back. So this month, this is something new that we have come up with, and we have seen that we have many of our members who received the salary cut have been reaching out to us, and it's at a very low interest rate. And in addition to what Mr. Smith said, we are trying to see how we could help. And this month, more than other months, we are trying to reach out to as much of our members to help them to restructure their loans, either assist with a debt consolidation, because we're trying to go more into what the theme for this year is. And also this month too, we have been into various trainings, reaching out to our members for financial literacy programs, again, to empower our members. And again, they usually launch the Holly Jolly loans during this month, because we are gearing them for those who want to improve their homes, who want to ensure that they have a nice lunch for Christmas, a time of caring, buying gifts. This is the month that we always launch this new program.
I like that name, Holly Jolly Loans. All right, but it's interesting when you say that you're reaching out to people, because there are some who come to you immediately and say, I can't handle my financial obligations, and there's some that are avoiding or really trying to stretch when they can go in and ask for consideration for refinancing. So I think it's great that you said that, so all members can hear. This seems to be a theme across the board for most financial institutions, especially credit unions.
Yes, and we do see it fit for this debt consolidation, because with the decrease in their salaries, most of our members are having trouble in meeting their monthly payments. And at the end of the day, why are we here? To assist them. So we are offering low interest rates, as low as 9%. And again, well, I take this time to reach out to our members too. For those we have not called us yet, please reach out to us, because we are here to assist.
All right. So the activity is happening at St. Francis Xavier?
Yes. Today, this morning, it started very early. We had a church service.
Oh.
I am just stepping with a while ago. I started from that service to commemorate the beginning of our International Credit Union Day. We think that giving grace is a way of granting us the blessings that we may have to assist our members. Also, after the service, we had a little gathering with the people who assisted. We serve, hot Johnny cakes with cheese and butter. I'm sorry we cannot have some for you.
I know. Am I going to expect my package from Corozal shortly?
Yes, of course. You, above all, are very welcome here in Corozal and especially at St. Francis whenever you may so desire.
Yes.
But then the day will continue all day long. We will be having treats to our members, nothing extravagant, a little cupcake or something, a little token, and T-shirts commemorating the day. So all this is happening today. It's a pity that the weather is not too appealing, but we hope that if it's not completed today, we can complete it tomorrow or the day after or Monday. But we're doing all this, but at the same time adhering to all the COVID-19 protocols to protect our members and protect our staff, so that everything is fine. We know that the virus, you can never know where you will find it, and you can never know when it will affect you. So we taking these measures, and also at the same time doing these activities. The union and my credit union only is a financial institution and collects interest, but also we are a credit union that gives back in through social means to our members, so that they can feel at home and they can be proud of their credit union. So in our Facebook page also, there have been posted some questions have been posted to describe our credit union in one word. And I was so amazed to look at it that the response was very gratifying to me, and the words that people put to describe how good their credit union has been to them, it's enormous for me, and I really appreciate the members for appreciating their credit union. We are doing our best that we can, and we will continue to do that. We need to look into including all those that may have difficulty in being included. We need to generate the financial inclusion. We go to our members. If our members don't come to us, we go to them. We have instituted
And I think that's such a critical part of what people have learned to appreciate with credit unions as well. I hear I know people are probably going to be rushing over now for that warm Johnny cake at St. Francis. And La Immaculata has their raffles posted online, and also some of the other giveaways that you have. And Lindbergh, I know the rest of the credit unions across the country are celebrating as well, and people can access that information from the Belize Credit Union League's Facebook page, right?
Yes.
All
yes,
right.
definitely.
Having snacks too.
And having snacks too? You have what? Powder bun or Johnny cake?
I think it's donuts.
Oh, all right. I won't say which direction I'll be traveling today then. But thank you all for joining us and just being a great reminder for us about why credit unions play such an important role in our community, and how people have used your services for so many years, and how now hopefully to build better financial health. So thank you all, and stay safe, please. And happy International Credit Union Day.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Same to you.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break.
Yep. And when we are back, we're going to be talking about a new publication from the CCJ Academy of Law. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking to invest in a growing free trade economy with ideal geographical positioning and existing economic partnership agreements with countries around the world? Perfectly nestled between Central America and the Caribbean, Belize is open for business with over $500 million in investment opportunities in industries such as agriculture, aquaculture, tourism, and much more. Register today to participate in the Belize Investment Summit 2021 and find the investment opportunity that's right for you.
To decrease your risk of being bitten by infected mosquitoes, use proven personal protective methods too. Apply an effective mosquito repellent to exposed areas of skin according to manufacturer's instructions. Wear light-colored long pants and shirts while outdoors in the early morning and late afternoons. Further, protect vulnerable family members like pregnant women, children, the elderly, and persons who are unwell by using mosquito nets to sleep or rest, even during the day. Fight the bite and protect yourself and your family too from mosquito-borne diseases.
Hey son, how was your first day at sixth form?
Really cool. It was great to see my friends, and I really love my teachers.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your first day, but I'll be back from Corozal next week.
It's okay, Dad. I can't wait to see you. Oh, and please remember, I still have some books I need to purchase.
Ah, yes. Let me e-cash you that right now. Money has been sent. I add a little extra cash just for you.
Whoa, Dad. Thanks. Got it.
You're welcome, sir.
Download the eCash app today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257. eCash, the future is here.
Bringing people together has always been SMART's mission and passion. That is why we are proud to have built a locally independent quality network from the ground up that spans the country with over 100 sites. We continue to add more affordable mobile data packages, broadband speeds, and voice services to meet your personal and business needs. SMART has set the standard of true competition with the most competitive prices on all services offered. We invite and welcome you to join the SMART family, where the value for your dollar matters. SMART will continue bringing new technologies, more affordable prices, network expansions, and people together. SMART, bringing people together.
At Fuse Bistro Limited, we care about the well-being of your family and the environment. Our Euro Caribbean style restaurant features a wide variety of tropical lunches, gourmet dinners, fused granola, organic coffee, infused sangrias, margaritas, and martinis, and much more for you to enjoy. Find our organic food products at Belizon, Bistro, Grab on the Go, and stores in San Ignacio and Santa Elena. WhatsApp us at 624-0500 for deliveries. Fused Bistro Limited, pure and natural.
The TV you love is always with you, from live TV, sports, and on-demand titles. Choose your plan today. Plans start as low as $15 per month. My TV, entertainment, anytime, anywhere.
How does the AstraZeneca vaccine work? The vaccine provides support to help your body develop immunity to the virus that causes COVID-19. The body is left with a supply of memory cells that will remember how to fight the virus. It takes a few weeks for the body to produce the antibodies after vaccination. How long does it take to build immunity after taking the first dose of the vaccine? There is protection 14 days after a person's first dose. However, that initial protection may decline over time, which is the reason why it is so important to get the second shot. How long after the first dose should one take the second dose? The second dose should be given between week 8 and week 12. Are there any deaths associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine? There have been no deaths associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Vaccines save lives. They remain the safest, most effective, and cost-effective medical tool developed. Increased uptake of the vaccine is the best way to stop this pandemic, save lives, and return to normalcy.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun. With eCash, we can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
It's Freaky Friday. Every Friday in October, you can double up from $1 to $39 and triple up with $40 or more. All treats only with Smart.
And we're back.
And we are wrapping up our show right now. We did have some difficulties with our final segment, but we do want to say thank you to all of our guests who joined us this morning. We did, of course, have a lot of great conversations, and we started off talking about healthy relationships with the Belize Family Life Association. That was such a great conversation with Joan
We don't get to talk about that very often, and I know it's so interesting. I think we could dive into a series about looking at not just, and it isn't targeted, isn't looking at your relationship or anybody else's in particular. It's just kind of looking at what we do in this society and accept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that, if anything, one of the most important things or the aspects of that conversation is just building, and it goes back to our eye-opener again, building that awareness so that, especially if you could know the signs, especially for some things like abuse and abusive relationships and red flags again, like things that you should look out for. Because, we spoke a lot about how, if you don't really know better, it's hard to recognize those signs.
Yeah. No, and when you think, I thought there were some really insightful stuff. I missed your Trending Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
But I thought there were some really interesting points that were brought out with the red flag trend. Besides, it was funny when people made jokes of it, but some of the ones relating to unhealthy relationships were so spot on. And unfortunately, people see red flags and they don't take the warning that's coming with it. And worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario is that it can be life-threatening, but it's also, if you just look at it, it's just leading to a very unhealthy quality of life once you see those red flags and stay.
And you know what is also good about the red flag trend and the conversation that we had this morning was that you rightly said that a lot of it was insightful, and I think that a lot of people also, when they think about abuse or unhealthy relationships, the mind automatically goes to like the extreme things, like physical violence, or even when it comes to emotional abuse, like they think about people cursing each other out or something. But what the red flag thing highlights is that it can start from something very gradual and something very small. And we also spoke about that with Joan, and when she was talking about somebody asking like, who are you talking to on your phone? And then slowly and truly, you sort of, what's the word? You sort of adapt to that, but the person sort of...
You become accepting of this type of behavior.
And there's a term, I think, like that's similar to grooming. I forgot what the actual term is when you do it in a relationship. But it's, it can be some sort of insidious things that build up over time when it becomes, all right, who are you talking to? Then it becomes, well, you can't talk to this one. And then it becomes, you can't see this one. And
or check the message to verify.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff.
And then it builds up over time. And I think that it's really interesting to me because based on just anecdotal stuff and stuff that I've read, the signs are early, and people who are, let's say, abusers, maybe because they've learned it growing up, or not say maybe, probably definitely because they've learned it, they know how exactly to create that sort of a dynamic where there's an imbalance of power, and then they keep feeding, and until eventually the abused person becomes trapped and because of course, if you just get with somebody and you start beating them like the first day.
And it very rarely happens that way.
Exactly.
I think that's what people don't realize. Have you ever heard the stories where someone's in an abusive relationship and then when it starts to happen or they get out, they're like, oh, by the way, I had heard that he or she did the same thing in his past. It's like, where were these tidbits of advice before? I do hope it was helpful. I think it was kind of just the surface, scratching the surface of the conversation. Lots of food for thought for what we're doing, and also areas where perhaps we can consider stepping in, and not just from agency or NGO or government level, but also when you see people in your family. That maybe you can start to build on some of these foundations, especially if you know they don't have it at home.
Yes, exactly. And I think that education can also help too. And, in sort of a broader topic, because I think that we can also teach children, we spoke a lot about values earlier on, and we can start to teach children, let's say, healthy relationships, not necessarily, romantic, but just how to interact with each other, how to perhaps express emotions or resolve, conflicts, and it starts on the playground too, and you can see, and sometimes, very often you can see how, you know, what children are
See at
experiencing at home influences how they react and how they play with each other. You know, some children are more violent, some people
Or
are...
even language.
Or the language that
Yeah.
they use, you know, or, you know, and how they... And then, so there are signs from very, very, very early on.
And I think we also have to be careful because we don't want to romanticize the past, like, oh, back in the day, it used to be this, back
Well,
in, you know. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, not to interrupt you, but I think that we often romanticize the past, and I think that it's because a lot of it just was not talked about.
Yeah. Well, I usually say if it worked in the past, we wouldn't be here today.
Exactly.
So we are learning. We as a society are learning, and I think that's the thing. I think we see, we have a better understanding of how our brain works. We have a better understanding of how our emotions work. We have a better understanding of human beings,
and we have more
at least from a scientific level. Yeah. And so we know where some of the gaps are, and it's important. You know, it's like little things. When I grew up, if your parents told you hug or kiss that loved one, male or female, you had to. That was the respect. Now we know better. Now we know that when we force children to do that, we're telling them they have no control over their own bodies. If they don't feel like hugging and if they don't feel like kissing, that's okay. And so now I know that. So if someone tries to get their child to hug me and the child says no, I say, okay, no hurt feelings.
Or even...
Maybe a little hurt feelings, but I understand it and I accept it.
Or even just in general, the way how we teach children to interact with adults. And I think that things have changed. And I even remember, even from when I was growing up, you know, the whole idea of, you know, especially like if you're around other adults, or let's say, you know, if you're being left with a babysitter or something, like the default thing was, all right, this is an adult, you have to do everything they say, you have to listen to them, blah, blah, blah. And it can be even worse when there's even more power dynamics. So when it comes to like teachers or you know, people, or, you know, religious figures, sometimes people in the church as well. I know if you've been watching, if you've been following some regional news, there has been a big story coming out of Jamaica of a pastor who seems to have been abusing young boys over, you know, a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
And of course, because his role in the society is one of trust, one of power, so of course you wouldn't automatically think, or you know, people people have that, let's say, predetermined trust in a figure like that, and it can be a priest, it can be a pastor, it could be, you know, the parent, it could be a teacher, and you don't, and now that, and so, you know, you default trust them, and then you tell your children the same thing, and then people who are in that position know that, and they use that leverage to perpetrate the abuse or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's difficult, but now that we have more awareness and we have more access to information, I think it's changing a little bit. And people are naturally a little bit more wary of the situations that they put their children in now, for that very same reason, because we hear stuff about in the news, like things like this.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting conversation for the week. We've been having some great conversations this week, and adding to that is kind of diving into the state of relationships in the country, and just most importantly, recognizing those red flags, or trend was different, right? We didn't in unhealthy relationships. And then we also want to thank the credit unions who showed up this morning, St. Francis, La Immaculata, and of course the Belize Credit Union League for talking about International Credit Union Day.
Yes, absolutely. So we want to wish them the very best. And if you are a member of a credit union locally, check out what they might be having to go on.
There may be warm Johnny cakes waiting for you.
Even you know, you might just be able to get some free breakfast this morning. So check in with your credit union, see how they're celebrating. And of course, we want to wish all of them the very best whilst they're celebrating their 73rd anniversary.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we want to say thank you to them, and do remember that you can reach out to your credit union if you are struggling in keeping up with your financial obligations. Their theme for this International Credit Union Day is Better Financial Health for a Brighter Future. And so, you know, it's important that you're able to have that conversation and make that approach if they have not approached you as yet. Unfortunately, we did have to reschedule Honorable Justice Winston Anderson from that appearance, but we do hope to bring that to you, and we'll keep you posted when we do have that tied up. But we want to thank you for tuning in this morning. We appreciate you starting your morning right with us. And if you would like to get in touch, if you have questions, comments, interested in being a part of the show, just send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYE Belize.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.